But I do believe the way ahead may well be the first time a gallery in the NHS has showcased the work of charities and organisations involved with the subject of art and warfare.
It's far worse than you can imagine, particularly when the person in front of you is going to kill you, and that you should wake up and switch on before they switch you off. But I did enjoy the war games. That is, until I realised that everything in life has a price to pay.
But what we can say is everybody who goes to war, either then or now, comes back subtly or not so subtly different.
Well, I'm standing with my index finger up against the lightly oiled trigger mechanism, waiting for a terrorist, or his wife, or child, to exit the door to my front, whilst at the same time trying to erase any doubts I have in my mind, because when the door opens, there'll be little or no time to determine who is or is not a terrorist. I told the doctor my dream would be to wake up in a normal, average community, and I'd be able to go to the shops and buy a newspaper and a bottle of milk. And he said, "Is it a relief to cry?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "I'll give you a year before you try to kill yourself." Well, that's how it ended, but that's how it began, because I was released into the community.
Shape-shifters, dream catchers, people who take risks, courageous. We are you, we are me, we are us.
C'est lui pour moi, moi pour lui dans la vie. Il me l'a dit, l'a juré.
2016 Loudest Whispers has drawn some of the most deeply felt, thought artwork that we've had, and it's the 8th Loudest Whispers as well, maybe because of the theme of religion, philosophy and spirituality and belief. It's come through in the work.
And the house is something that appears quite a number of times in my work. I quite often use it to stand in for the body. As a trans man myself, I find it's really important to have kind of imagery around the body. And this particular piece, which is kind of the centerpiece, is made up out of what's currently still an unpublished autobiography of a trans man who lived between, I think it was 1915 and 1962. At the point that he wrote this, he was a Buddhist monk and owned nothing. So he had to borrow a typewriter, scrounge some paper, and obviously over the time he was using different typewriters, different papers.
It really demonstrates the role that collage can play, how engaging that can be in a way that enables people to express perhaps things that they couldn't express in any other way, actually. And I think what we're seeing here really is just an amazing outcome from a huge collaboration from the people who've put their time into the artwork itself, from Alexa and from Peter.
Free yourself, redeem yourself, see yourself for who you really are, and when you do see the truth, changes.
The agreement was that we would take a selection of them here. Certain artwork we would ask for the originals just to create a bit more of an interactive exhibition. So I'd love to meet the artist of this work and find out more what this is all about. I mean, we've used in the publicity.
Thank you, Peter. So we celebrate International Nurses Day all over the world on May the 15th, and we took our inspiration from Florence Nightingale, who once said, and I quote, "Nursing is an art, and if it is to be made an art, it requires an exclusive devotion, as hard a preparation as any painter or sculptor's work."
Awards. Music can be a very powerful way of supporting people in their recovery. It can develop creative, technical, vocational skills.
Yes, the strong get more, while the weak ones fade. Empty pockets on never fade.
the key changes, and there's a fantastic facility, recording facility, and then I sketched away there. So I sketch in line, and then I take that home and then colour that on the computer. So you get that kind of vibrancy, and you get the immediacy and the excitement of being live.
It's a passion because I love hats. I like wearing hats myself. And I couldn't really find anything that I wanted to wear, so I thought, why don't I make them? And that's what I do. They all usually have quite a lot of height to them as well, and I love the feathers. So, you know, there's nature in there and beauty. Lines and shapes are beauty.
But I had to do one a day, so that's sometimes quite difficult on a windy day, you know. You know, you download them onto the computer and you blow them up big and you think, wow, look at that. I had no idea. Tiny little flowers which just make a mass of colour, but when you go in close, right into the stamen, they've got extra special treasures which reveal themselves.
I can't help but help myself to Woven's goodies lying on the shelf. I can't help but help myself. I can't wait to feel the weight.
I wanted to show a range of artwork to do with needlework. In the early stages we chose the word the sewing circle as a suggestion of a group, a camaraderie between people.
If you look through their newspaper, I don't think they ever show women in sport. You know, there was loads of things about what else could you put on page 3, you know, women's achievements, but you know, that felt a bit like that's never going to happen, but it's an idea. And I don't know, I was really inspired by the kind of protest, and it was quite a small group of people and there was lots of music and chanting, and I started experimenting with sewing and sort of how sewing or how marches, actually demonstrations, can transform people and transform, I don't know, laws and politics, and I really liked that.
And then further into the exhibition we get hand-sewn cards. And then there is also the very poignant display of cards from World War I. French card makers, they were sent back to family, friends in England. But the irony is that the cards arrived, but not the soldiers.
I started to do this about 3-4 years ago from bits of discarded jewellery, so I call it upcycle.
What could be better than spending an evening around beautiful art and wonderful, beautiful people like you?
I wanted to make sure that there was very strong reference to Oscar Wilde, because I see him being sent to jail and his life being ruined. Oscar Wilde does pave the way for the Wolfenden report that came out of a lot of very tragic situations. You've got a reference to Oscar and with this as well. It's interesting that the lesbian side of this was more invisibly treated. There was no real acknowledgement.
I've always been taking photographs right through as a sort of photographer participant, and I've got so many photos that starts with a very large Stop the Colours photo from 1987 and goes right up to Pride 2016. Anyway, we went to Hyde Park Corner to the Lesbian Strength March, and I just felt like I belonged, being black, being overweight, being someone that fancied women, and I wasn't supposed to, being a single parent. I felt empowered.
Learning as you go along and working on things and developing them, learning from mistakes.
Learning from, and then other people, like just, it's great because, you know, you can just, you know, other people here, you can just ask them what they think.
Yeah. and these two are etched with, they're marbled actually.
The landscape is a metaphor for mental space, be it one that's in turmoil or chaos, or one that's serene and calm. But it's very much a way of explaining mental state. So in many respects, the work can be very much viewed as self-portrait more than anything else.
Color, be crazy. Color, be manic. Without a color, we're in a panic. Beige is dead, brown is crap, flesh outdated. Press up, give me neon, don't be gone. Mutual's music,
If I could choose anything, I'd have always chosen textiles and fabric as my starting point. Finding recycled fabrics, going to charity shops and rummaging through. You know, I was on holiday, I was in a charity shop in Spain trying to find just that perfect bit of fabric.
I get all my materials from my local charity shops, and then me and the family spend hours de-seaming them, cutting them up.
So I just specialised doing portrait and doing different way, different style, whichever way, then trying to perfect it.
I think to be an artist you have to block everyone out. And when you have a family, that's very, very hard to do. So it was sort of constantly being torn in two. And that's why switching to embroidery made my life so much easier and more enjoyable, because I don't have to split myself off. So I can do it while I'm with other people.
My son had been very ill, and we thought that he was going to die. And if he didn't die, we thought he was going to be very disabled. And thank goodness he recovered, and I decided to make that piece of work. It was a therapeutic thing to do, and it would give me a really close connection to what I was doing. It felt even closer than drawing.
I'd been doing some paintings imitating stitched work. Yeah, the first painting I did was of the back of the canvas she was stitching. And I had a picture and thought, oh, this would be perfect for the show.
Sewing art is considered more as a minor art. It's like very like housewife thing.
And assemblage art is a way of making it into something even more amazing than it was last time. And stitching is just one more way of putting it together.
That's how I style. Praying for thank you each day of my life. Without your rain, we would not have tried. Coloring crazy, coloring without my color, we're in a panic.
My memory, my manners, mountain minibus miles, muddy magnetic miniskirt.
Why memories? Well, it was because there's this big notice here, traumatic stress clinic, and memories not only are something which they deal with a lot here with the psychologists and psychiatrists, but also we all have memories.
And I did find out the first memory clinic in London was here in 1981. It was a first under the auspices of University College.
I much prefer cooperative work. It ended up with 12 plus the archive. It fills the space without being crowded.
We were absolutely positive this was going to be a forward-looking, healing exhibition. It wasn't going to be sinking into the depths of trauma.
It's more about the emotional feelings that we went through as her mind unravelled. And it became apparent to me that there was a beauty in the unravelling. And I don't mean that in a cruel way. My mum, in fact, became a much happier person. She was more at peace with herself.
To me, it was about new forms of remembering and new forms of connecting, healing and connecting and recreating something new.
That was something I built out of desperation. I was having a very difficult year. I wasn't able to paint in a big scale. So what I did was to make prints of my notebooks, and it came out a big tree.
Brothers and sisters, when they insist we're just not good enough.
It all starts with Albin, who gets the ball rolling with artists contributing work that becomes a postcard.
Is that every year we've got new faces coming and new people being really excited about the show. We've been doing it 4 years, and each year there's less truly open exhibitions that support, accept anyone's work, and so it's really important that ours keeps on going and flourishes. I don't choose the work to go into the St Pancras show, that's all Elaine and Peter.
I think this is a fantastic opportunity, Peter, to celebrate the NHS and the art of caring.
The one picture, the little picture that grasped me, and I didn't know this at the time, was a little picture called Love and Care for All of a mermaid. And I actually found out that that picture is drawn by the youngest person in the exhibition, a 12-year-old child.
They look like they're caring for each other a lot, and with care comes love. It shows how much a real creature like us can care for each other.
We've got a really good studio and very good, supportive and kind environment to explore artistic ideas. I come twice a week and it's a lifesaver. You get compassion, and there's a lack of that in the wider society, because if you're ill or disabled you can't really earn money, you get cast aside. These are about city life and the pressure it puts on people, but there's also a lot of energy and
Shining through, I see your true colors. That's why I love you. So don't be afraid to let them show your true colors.
The moment I heard that Anne-Sophie was a contestant in this year's Alternative Miss World, I made instant inquiries as to obtaining one of her outfits. It was very inspirational for me having that presented in the Alco entrance.
And we were all in a constant state of anxiety and worry for very good reason. And you do a show like this and they come into the gallery and suddenly all of that dissipates. There's something about color and art that is protective in a very real way. So we put together that kind of exhibition, and it's paintings, it's also fabric work, there's some clothing, there's some jewelry, but nothing that you would see anywhere else. This is very, very special.
In the gallery we alternate. For 1 year it's linked to the pleasures of needlework and fabric, but we switch it then to a celebration of colour. and we thought Colour Me Ecstatic would, you have to think about it.
And I'm a sort of magnet. So when people meet me, whatever they're doing, even if they've never made art before, they suddenly have the urge to make things. And Ella is an amazing artist, and she kind of paints the underbelly of the London art scene and entertainment scene. So I always say she's our visual Boswell.
Ella Guru's portrait was a perfect opportunity to give this sense of theatre with the drapes around the portrait and the figures on either side.
This is Colour Walk 2018. It is Spitalfields Market. There are actually several colour walks in one painting, and there are colour walks there once a month on a Thursday.
I love this gallery, I love this man, and we have fantastic entertainment tonight.
Can I ask you all to, if you feel comfortable, to close your eyes so you can imagine what I'm saying? How is that not fun, fair? I want you to keep the thought of candy frost skies.
A little bit of voodoo, a little bit of witchcraft. We're going to cast spells on you, and I'm going to send you out into the world a more colorful person.
You have somewhere safe to go, everything's provided, right from tee up.
Keep me in a safe place. Without this, and any time I can get depressed or getting too excited and end up in hospital.
It gives me the space to be myself, whatever kind of mood I'm in. It's really nice having other people in the same situation as you. You don't have to explain.
And the project was started in 1979 when it was part of the drive to bring people out of long stay hospital situations into the community.
My main piece is a diptych of a suicide bridge in Archway, and we found some articles from different newspapers about what a wonderful view you get from this bridge. And then another article saying so many people kill themselves there, they should put a barrier up. And in both of them there's a vanishing point, the vanishing point through the bridge, and it's kind of about how people vanish.
People nobody want to know, and this was my main subjects.
When I took the picture, I just moved it, and I got that sort of effect.
Because we were thinking about the movement in London, how busy it can be at night as well.
Yeah.
It inspires me when I see people's work, my work, and you can just know the efforts and it goes into the artwork.
So we are very, very privileged here to be able to have the leadership that we have with this programme of work that's always going on, and that we open it up and all the visitors that come in on a daily basis, some of whom I have to say are quite surprised when they come the first time. They walk through the door and there's this great art gallery that they weren't expecting in the first corridor of a hospital.
I got hit by a car 7 or 8 years ago. She was driving her car. I was getting off the bus, the school bus, and it got hit, and then it got hit me. It's like really tragic.
I was inspired to make these 3 little oil paintings on aluminium because for me the NHS is wonderful.
Yeah, it's lovely.
My mum and dad fought for it, and that was that you get care at the point of need.
So the commission, Here to Stay, began in March 2018. I've been working with the Windrush generation for 6 years now.
Every year we go into the Kingston University and talk to the student nurses and try to get them involved in the art of caring. But we gave them a card like this, and we gave them a bit of wool, and we asked them to write a word on their bit of paper. And I think it shows how all the student nurses come from so many different countries.
The gently explosive art of yarn bombing and other acts of stitchery. And we had a photo shoot here, which was the most fun we've ever had with a photo shoot. We all got dressed up in strange bits of crochet and masks and so on.
When Sue mentioned yarn bombing, I thought, wow, well that's something a lot of people don't know about. Let's explore that. So yarn bombing became the essence of the exhibition.
It's crochet and knitting, it's yarn bombing, it's, in some cases, it's women's work, so it's kind of subversive as well. We do have men in the show who have stitched.
I really think you could do something different in a space like that, where a lot of people like a public space, make people have a better time, basically have a better day and enjoy it.
You couldn't go in there and not be cheered up by everything. It's unexpected and it's sort of life affirming.
So Jill Navarro, she added a tremendous amount to the show. Very proud to have her in the show.
I like to be immersed in this big weird shape, structure where it's everything reacts to light, and now it creates all these shadows and movement. I don't like artwork in squares. You have to put it in a space. It's all site specific, which is good.
Madame Fairy, she stitches and she does couture, and it's about femininity and what women do to themselves. It's about plastic surgery. It is the most fascinating work, all handmade, hand embellished, hand embroidered.
We have lots of problems like drug usage, alcoholism, eating disorders, and you can see all of them there. All my designs are quite playful, I know, but actually they're all explain, tells very sad stories and analyze very serious concepts.
It's called Plan, it even has its own name. And then I found a mannequin in a skip and brought her home. And first of all I just started putting chicken wire around the body, and I was weaving with the plastic. And then one day it was just like, oh, I wonder if I can actually do something with it, and I could.
And she knew I was doing knitwear for ages before. Vibrant colour knitwear, that's what I was literally doing all the time, so I've got bags of it.
Lucinda, Jimmy and Jane, they all start, I think, in the 90s, and they're all very individual, distinct artists, and very happily sitting in three layers of the exhibition.
Also having Jane at the other end, but she's been painting the patients. You come through meeting this history that she has created, and then you're brought into this absolute light and space, mountains and sea. 3 places in time. We're all in a place and time. Everybody in the world is in a place and a time right now, whether they're with the person they want to be or they were caught in mid-motion and stuck somewhere in another town.
So suddenly everything was put on hold. I had originally worked here 30 years ago, and I remembered her oil paintings. And I thought, oh, I really must get this body of work back to St Pancras, which had not been here for quite a while. The second part with Ahita's work is in the gallery walkway with some natural light, and unfortunately he's not been able to return to London during the pandemic, which makes the display of the work for me quite poignant because it reflects another country, another place, a dual life between London and Greece.
What's loading?
Because I am up at the mountain, and that's where I paint now. And there's nothing there, just me and the cats. If I want to communicate, then I have to get on my motorbike and go down the village or come over to Poros.
There's 4 cabinets, so one cabinet's going to be dedicated to the alternative Miss World. I was in it 3 times. This one was water, actually. No, this was the first one. This was 1984, and it was fantastic fun. So I went as Miss Continental Cartoon, which was the name of my band at the time. And then 1985, the theme was Earth. And in 91, I came runner-up. I was Miss What on Earth, and that was a year I had 40 miles, which is went to #1 in the dance chart. Second cabinet will be music. Third cabinet will be my design, and then the final cabinet will be dedicated to Harriet in lockdown, the drawings I've been doing.
I think the gallery's been blessed over the years because I think we are one of the few specialist galleries in London that actually remained open and still is open during the pandemic. So we're bringing quite a lot of joy to NHS workers.
Because it's the interaction, brings life and brings life and brings joy. I want this to make people feel good in such a heavy, hard time.
Do you all feel like you're in Greece? I do. We're really at St Pancras Hospital.
We were locked up for so long, we couldn't do anything, we couldn't use the gallery, and then all of a sudden, boom!
Anyone that stepped into this exhibition will literally smile.
And when you enter to the St Pancras Gallery, open the door of Casa Chromat. It is an alternative universe. It's changed your mood.
It's really uplifting. It's a joyous exhibition.
We decided to do a house, Casa Chromat Color, and Peter wanted to actually make rooms.
So I thought, let's just push the boat out and suggest the fantastic spaces and rooms and shapes.
And we also wanted rooms that would suit our artists. So who would be good for the dressing room, who would be good for the children's room. It just, once the rooms were built, it all just seemed to come together in a very logical way. I collaborated with my friend John William. We plundered my shed. We used everything. There was so much food stuff in there. I mean, plastic food, you know.
There's the bathroom area, which we've created an element of fun involving a mermaid in a bath.
And you know, we get these ideas and then they grow and grow and grow and they become almost something on their own. And that is the ladies' toilet. It's only for the ladies.
So I've called it my fantasy craft room because it literally is a thing of my dreams to have a space that I can make in.
I like the word chamber, and a chamber's like a little tiny room. I always think of chambers as places you go to sort of hide, or you go to gather your thoughts or read a book. So it's taking my home into a public space, but not 100%, but because it's my personal work, it sort of is.
I work so always to create like wearable arts, and yeah, it kind of came together then when I found the house. And then I also found this like duvet cover. It's like an old granny cover that I got for like £3. And Richard helped me to make the structure. We worked on alternative Miss World, and we actually worked really well because I kind of get the idea, and I'm like, I want a pink house dress, but obviously I'm good at sewing, but I'm not the best at structure. And Richard, with his more engineering background, is able to basically support my vision, and is also really fun to work with.
We've lost some amazing people. Joe Gagliano, one of my best friends in the world. Phil Wildman, I still can't believe he's gone. And there are many others, they're gone. And that's the only part of Casa that has no color. It's very ghostly, it's very white. And Jamie did a piece, and it's a skull, and that's a memory piece too, remembering the people who are gone. That's
Sue co-curated the art exhibition Peter, which is in the corridor. So I'll let Sue say a few words.
And I am beyond proud to have her here, having her book launch at Casa Chromatica.
Question is, what happens next after you've been in a fantastic house?
I wanted that artwork overall to be about that confinement that we had 23 hours a day. Meanwhile, nature came back into London and nature took over. God, look, nature, you know, and also without the pollution stripped out, I think we could smell more clearly.
Most noticeable was that there was no other sound whatsoever, and it made you become very, very aware of how loud some of that silence can be. Because when I record something now, it's not the same as it was 3 years ago. It's simply not.
I had done a painting on 9 little wooden canvases of my lockdown walk, which was a bird's eye view of London with the emphasis on how nature took over. The St Pancras Commission gave me the opportunity to see that it's even bigger than the scale I normally work.
It's wonderful that nature has been brought indoors, because that's what it was. We weren't allowed out, were we? Wasn't it? At one stage it was an hour of fresh air. And today we're in a glorious summer evening, you know, we're free to roam around. The artwork in the way this has been done is, you do feel as if it's coming in when you walk through there.
Is, I think, an exceptional exhibition, telling the story of what it was really like, which is very different, Peter, to anything I've seen in the 20 years that you've been putting these exhibitions on.
It's the power of what happened during the initial lockdown. It gave me the idea this is maybe a one-off to do this. And I imagined a central art piece, the equivalent of like a tree in the gallery, but including different artists.
And the glass cabinet is a tower of isolation. We were all put into these towers of stay at home. So if you lived in a block of flats, you were in a tower. If you were in your house, you were in your house. Harriet wearing her mask. And then going, now what? Because nobody knew what.
All this talk, this media news explosion, but nobody actually knew very much. It was all full of shadows as well.
You had the conspiracy theorists on one side saying, this is the beginning of the end, they just want to, you know, you'll take an injection and they'll chip you, and, you know, so there was all kinds of views up in the ether, and nobody could give you that one definite response that you were desperate to hold on to say, okay, this is what we're going to do, this is how long it's going to last, this is what you need to do to get through, and that's all. Things were rapidly changing, so.
I found out I was pregnant with him
I think just after we went into the first lockdown. So I spent my whole pregnancy and then the first sort of year of his life, I suppose, we were in lockdown. And each of these individual sort of circular kaleidoscopic elements is created from a photo shared by a woman who gave birth during the pandemic.
I know we all felt isolated and, you know, mental health was impacted negatively from it for many, many people, possibly most people. But I really wanted to highlight as well that actually we'd given breathing space to the non-human natural world.
There would be a great temptation to look at COVID and concentrate, understandably, on the number of people who died. What I liked very much about life in the age of COVID suggests that there was life, there still is life, and there will be life.
I am an academic virologist, so the fascination of what's going on is going to outweigh some of the horrors for some of it. But we all need to come back to the idea that something as big as this is going to change the psyche of a nation, it's going to change the psyche of a world. Unfortunately, I think it will leave some scars, and that's what art does. It brings us back and gives us that space to mourn and gives us that space to grieve.